Sup folks, unfortunately this might be the last part of what if Deku get reborn as a vampire. But I'm pretty sure there will be more chapter in the future. Until then, this is the last part. Enjoy. Chapter 82. Izuku Midoriya is going to rain hell on any member of the serpent he finds. Shoot em, stab em, beat em to death, it doesn't matter, he's going to end them. The motherfuckers. He puts his revolvers on his hip, his pistol behind his back, and grabs a lever-action shotgun. He steps through the portal waiting in his backyard. These cunts really thought they could do that shit and get away with it. Make a snuff film with his men, call him out and get away with it. They're not getting away with shit. They should still be here. In this warehouse. He's glad Grin recognized it. It poses some questions, but he'll deal with it later. He's a little busy right now. He kicks open the back door, strolls in, and 3 men run over to the sound he made. Working the lever as fast as he can, he slams 4 shots their way and practically pastes the bastards. He moves further into the warehouse and encounters 2 more men. He slams the butt of his shotgun against the first man's chin and shreds the second man as he gets shot in the stomach. Pain be damned, he's not gonna stop moving till everyone in here is dead or dying. Which is exactly how he leaves them as he finds his men. Look what these fuckers did to them. These were good people with husbands and wives. One with children. One practically was a child. He was only 17 years old. Just a few years older than Izuku. Poor kid. What type of monster has it in them to torture a 17-year-old boy to death? It's like he can feel his soul corroding. He can't. But it feels like he can. Izuku never thought of himself as an angry person, but if the time he spent as a vampire has taught him one thing, it's how to hate. Not just how to take it in and deal with it, or even to put it towards something positive, but it did help with both of those. It taught him how to bring it back around tenfold. Which is what he's going to do. He knows exactly how to do it. Look, just start recording and we'll get started, says Katsueki. I did, boss, says Wolfman. Oh, good. Alright, let's get started, but before that, how about I explain what I'm doing and why? I don't know which snake specifically ordered to have my men captured and tortured to death for a show, but if I find out, I'm going to gut him. But before that, I've got some of the men who actually took part in it. Some, not all, as I killed about 15 of them. What we have left is 9. We're gonna do what they did to my men to them. I'm simply giving them what they deserve. Katsueki strolls over to a table and grabs a wrench. What's your name? Asks Katsueki. Please don't kill me. No. Now what's your name? Asks Izuku. Muhammad. That's the most common name on earth. I'm surprised it took me so long to meet one. How's this, Muhammad? You give me a good reason and I don't kill you. You only get one chance though, so make sure it's good, says Katsueki. I have a family, says Muhammad. Izuku breaks his ribs with the wrench. Damn it, Muhammad, I said a good reason, says Katsueki before stomping on his calf and breaking his fibula. A couple of the people you killed had a family. You still killed them. I'm sorry, says Muhammad between heavy breaths. You should be, but you're not sorry you did it. You're sorry you got caught. Real quick, did any of them mention their families? Asks Katsueki. No, replies Muhammad. No. Parrots Katsueki. Do you know why? It's cause they didn't want to bring their families into this. Do you want to bring your family into this? You want me to kill them too? Please, says Muhammad. Katsueki brings his foot down on Muhammad's good leg, snapping it at the knee. Please what, Muhammad? Asks Katsueki. Please don't, says Muhammad. Don't kill them? You don't want them dead, why are you trying to hide behind them? You're here because of your choices. You want to bring them to me because of your choices? Asks Katsueki. On starts Muhammad before Katsueki breaks his jaw with the wrench. Yes you do, you low-life sack of piss, shouts Katsueki. You don't care who you hurt to make your money or who you sacrifice to preserve yourself, or who you leave behind when it all catches up to you, and it always catches up. Katsueki looks him dead in the eye for 10 or so seconds. He wants remorse or regret, something to let him know what he did was wrong, and all he gets is fear. It's fine. It could have been worse, but it's not what he wanted. He brings the wrench down and into the Pisac's skull. The rest of the killings go similarly with some variations. He actually recognized one of them as a rapist. He finally got to use those gelding tongs on that one. He feels sick to his stomach. What a position he's in. He put himself here though, and he'd do it again. So what now? Asks Victor after it's all over. The snakes are left where they were, and his men were either buried or returned to their families. Well, I'll take it to Grin. I want them to see that. To scare him out of business. I might do it again if we catch enough of them. Says Izuku. Okay, but starts Victor. You don't need to be there. Says Izuku. Thank you. Says Victor. You alright? Asks Izuku. I feel sick. I don't want to see that again. Death is one thing, mutilation is hard for me. Says Victor. I'm sorry for putting you through that. Says Izuku. I'd do it again. Says Victor. Chapter 83. All things considered, that could have gone worse for them. Says Tmin. Not really. Says Walker. Tmin sighs. Yeah, it really couldn't have gone much worse. I say we pay him back for it tenfold. Let him know who he's messing with. Says Walker. I'm not sure that's the way to do it. We tried to scare Katsueki off and he returned the favor tenfold like you just suggested. We pay him back, sure, but we don't make a spectacle of it. We kill his men, but we don't torture them. We leave the bodies for him or their families to recover. We don't want to piss him off, we just need to solve the problem. No being flashy, no more snuff films, just hit after hit. Says Tma. I promised him I'd gut him and I don't break promises. Says Walker. Then we let you gut Katsueki when we get the chance. Other than that, there's no need to be flashy or showy. Says Tma. Alright, fine. I want more, but if it works, it works. Says Walker. You got any more leads? Plenty. I've got some information on one of his heavy hitters. Says Tma. Who? Asks Walker. A girl named Margarita. Says Tma. What do you have on her? Asks Walker. Her name, quirk, place of work, and home address. Says Tma. That's a lot. Says Walker. You wanna take this one? Asks Tma. You're not coming with? Asks Walker. I'm a little tied up with work here. Says Tma. I'll send you everything you need. Sure, I'll take her. How tough is she? Asks Walker. You can probably manage it on your own, but I can lend a couple men just in case. Says Tma. Everything seemed simple enough. She had a strength enhancer that makes her stronger the more she sweats. He just needs to sneak in and club her over the head a couple of times. He'd leave his boys outside if he needs them. He'll call, but he probably won't need them. The house itself is pretty nice. It's by the beach. It's cool, you can feel the sea breeze from the yard. The pool doesn't make all that much sense to him. The ocean's right there. Plus there's no shallow end, which is weird. Maybe he just doesn't like it because he has trouble swimming being as heavy as he is. He stops thinking about the outside of her house as his buddy picks the lock to the back door and he sneaks in. The inside is nice too. Lots of wrestling memorabilia. He can get behind it. Personally, he'd rather fight than watch a fight, but it's still cool. He finds a weight room. There's an awful lot of weight on that bar. There's still sweat on the bench. Which means she worked out recently. Which means she should be pretty strong right about now. He'd have to take her down quick. Although that probably wasn't going to happen, seeing as he feels a pair of arms wrap around his midsection and fling him over her head. He hits the ground with a crash. Jesus, that's a big woman. She's almost 6 feet tall and she's ripped. Oh. She's not a fan of wrestling, it's her. She's the wrestler, he decides as she picks him back up and throws him into the wall. He scrambles too. his feet only to get smacked upside the head with the bar she was lifting with earlier. She is beating the tar out of him, slipping under and around him, beating him with or against anything and everything in the house. At this point they're in the garage and she's currently cracking the concrete beneath their feet with his face. He feels his forehead dent and crack. Before he can throw her off, she tackles him clean through the wall and into the backyard. "Boss," calls one of his grunts. He really should have called them sooner. She throws him at his man and kicks the other to the ground. She grabs him by the leg and throws him into the pool. Fuck, he can't swim out. Margarita doesn't know how these cunts found her, but she will beat the tar out of all of them. The metal cunt can't swim, so he's down for the count. The guy she's on top of isn't faring much better as his skull is getting pasted onto her back patio. The guy she kicked looks like he's gonna shit himself when she throws a piece of concrete at him, forcing him to drop his gun. After that it's easy, she just beats him to death too. She stands there for a second and watches the metal man down. That guy was tough, he could really take a beating. Footsteps. She whips around just in time to see a man with a double-barrel shotgun turn the corner and shoot. Ben Walker was a lot of things, but he wasn't a loser. At least not without a fight, so he'd keep clawing his way out of that pool. Trying to claw his way out of that pool. One of his boys gets thrown in. The water's turning red. A hand reaches into the water and he takes it. Gasping as he's pulled out of the water. He spits the water out of lungs. "Boss, are you alright?" asks his lackey. "I'm fine. I thought I told you to stay with the car," says Walker. "It was getting loud. I thought I should help. I got her," he says. And damn got her he did. That wasn't one of his men in the water. It was her floating there on her back. Her stomach was torn open from the shotgun shells the driver slammed into her. What a woman she was. The last thing to crack him open was an anti-tank rifle, and here she is doing it with her hands. "Good job," says Walker, "real good job. Now let's get out of here." Chapter 84. Izuku and Dabi are gonna go surfing with Margarita today. Izuku would normally be hesitant about something like this, you know, because water and all that. But if the water has too much of something else in it, it doesn't really do anything to him apart from getting him wet. So salt water was fine for him. So was pool water because of chlorine. Izuku likes the water. Liked the water. It's been a while since he went for a swim. He wishes Ruby told him that, but in all fairness, it was in one of Vlad's books, so she probably doesn't even know. She outgrew her weakness to water, like all vampires do. He doesn't need to tell her. He will, because she'll think it's interesting, but it's not like he's holding anything away from her. "You ready to go?" asks Dabi. Dabi looks kinda cool in his wetsuit. "Yeah. I'm ready. I'll get us a portal," says Izuku. As soon as Izuku and Dabi step through the portal into her yard, they can tell something's wrong. It's the blood in the air. They can smell it. Izuku pulls a knife out of his belt, just in case, before hopping the fence into the backyard with Dabi following right behind. They see a corpse. It looks like it was beaten to death. The two of them stroll forwards and turn a corner to see the rest of the yard. The first thing Izuku notices is the corpse by the pool. Then he notices the corpses in the pool. It was Margarita. It looks like something shredded their stomachs open. A shotgun maybe? Had to be. Maybe too there was a lot of flesh missing. Izuku strolls around the pool looking around for anything else he should know. Dabi takes them out of the water and lifts them onto his shoulders. Oh, that's interesting. Claw marks on the side of the pool. Not deep enough to be actual claws. Someone was drowning here, someone too heavy to swim and with harder fingers than the concrete. Izuku figures he's got a pretty good idea of what happened here. He's actually got it figured out perfectly by now. He just needs to make sure of one more thing. Stay with him a minute. I'm gonna check the house. Sure. Izuku takes a look around. No one's here anymore. He figured that, but he should still check. He sees some metal flakes around the house. She must have cracked his armor. That's impressive. It's just like her too. She was too fiery to go down without putting up a good fight. Izuku steps back outside to Dabi and takes one of the poor girl's bodies. You holdin' up alright? You knew her better than I did. I'll miss her, but this kind of thing happens. Dabi shrugs, nothing you can do about it. What do we do with the bodies? Well, we should bury them. They don't have anyone they consider family outside of us. I've got a spot where I've buried some of my men. We'll take a portal there. They do exactly as Izuku said. It's where he buried Doc. On that mountain. There's a beautiful view from here. There's more graves than I thought there'd be. It's mostly tombstones without bodies under them. Most families want the bodies. It doesn't feel right to me not to make something for them when they die though. So they all get a headstone. You alright being here? I come here to think. It's peaceful up here. Says Izuku, have you ever made a coffin or a headstone? No, I haven't. Then do you mind digging the grave? A little, but only because they should still be here. They all should. Without another word they get to work. Soon enough Dabi has a hole dug for them. They decided they'd bury one of them together. It's what they would have wanted. Izuku isn't sure how he feels about this place. It's beautiful. It's the resting place of some of the best men and women he ever met. This place shouldn't exist. Neither should this feeling. He doesn't care for feeling. Most people never felt for him. He wishes he could do that. But here he is, staring at freshly dug dirt, knowing what's underneath it. He feels sad. He looks over the headstones. He thinks of the past, of the time he spent with the people here. Their smiles, their laughter, their jokes. It brings him warmth. He feels happy. As he and Dabi stroll down to the cabin, he thinks of the hours he's spent here talking to people. Mostly Doc, as he'd been here the longest. He thinks he'll never get a response. He feels empty. He lets Victor know what happened. He should have had more tact than to do it through text, but it's fine. Victor understands. He'd spread the word and those who needed to would mourn. Which is currently what he and Dabi were doing. He normally mourns here alone. He wishes Dabi didn't have to feel what he knows Dabi is feeling. It's nice to have someone to mourn with though. He's glad Dabi's here to drink with him. To just exist with him. He'd be crying right now if he weren't here. Izuku hates to cry. He's not like that anymore. He's better than that. Chapter 85. Izuku's gonna miss Margarita. He didn't spend as much time with her as he did with some of the others, but she's a good person and she's got a good heart. A couple days after Izuku raided the serpent's house, the first time Izuku was stopping by Margarita's house today. He'd been stopping by a lot of his men's homes in the past couple days. After losing all those men, he figured he should ask what they'd like done with their bodies should they die. Margarita was the last person Izuku needed to ask. "Hey, man," says Margarita, as she comes to the door. "Hey," says Izuku as he walks into her living room. "So what's the deal?" asks Margarita. "I'm going around and asking the troops what they want done with their bodies should they not make it," says Izuku. "Oh. Yesh, that's rough," says Margarita. "It ain't that deep," replies Izuku. "Well, I gotta think about that. I don't even know what happens if I die," says Margarita. Izuku hums and waits for her answer. "Well, neither of them have a family that wants them. So I guess you don't have to return them to family or nothing. If I die, I assume I'd stay whole anyway, but just in case, you know?" says Margarita. "Sure. Well, if I stay whole, bury me somewhere. I just need to think of where," says Margarita. "I've got some property back in Japan. It's up a mountain a ways. It has a nice view. I planted a cherry blossom. It's also where I've buried the vigilantes with nowhere else to go," says Izuku. "I'm a vigilante with nowhere else to go," jokes Margarita. "He on the off chance I split when I die. Could you bury them together? I think they'd like that a lot," says Margarita. "Of course. says Izuku. We appreciate it. Also, what about you? Says Margarita. I'm kinda immortal, I don't need a grave. Says Izuku. Yeah, but if you did? Asks Margarita. I guess up by the cherry blossom. I'd like to be buried with my guitar and the guns I always carry. Says Izuku. See, it's a simple question. Says Margarita. On the topic of simple questions, can I ask why you became a vigilante? Asks Izuku. Well, I'd have to say it's because I saw you save that girl. I saw how she looked at those crooks. She looked mortified. It occurred to me then that there had to be more situations like that. I saw you fight them. I watched you get your arm torn off and a hole get punched through your stomach. I saw you keep going after that, trying your hardest to get that beat cunt. I thought if some kid could fight that hard for a positive change, I could too. I never thought I'd meet you though. I did think I'd save more kids from impossible odds, but I'm happy saving adults. Says Margarita. That's good of you. Says Izuku. It was more about the kids than anything, to be honest. I've always wanted a daughter or a son. Lesbians can't exactly make one. It's just the way we're built. Says Margarita, shrugging. So you just want to help kids? Asks Izuku. Well, I like where I am and what we do, but I've always imagined having a child. Although I always had this thought in the back of my head. What if I lost the child? I wanted to keep people from experiencing that. I know this isn't really the best way to achieve that goal. But killing people that traffic kids is more than enough for me. Says Margarita. Have you ever considered adopting? Asks Izuku. I have actually. I think I would have if I never met you. But now I get to save kids. Sure, they're not my kids, but I get to be a positive influence in the lives of lots of them. Says Margarita. That's an interesting way to look at what we do. Says Izuku. How do you see it? Asks Margarita. Izuku sighs and thinks about what he's saying for a minute. I quite literally am a monster. I drink blood and through it I take energy from the soul. Souls are real. God is real. Hell is real. I've been. If God had wanted them to live, he wouldn't have made me the stronger monster. That is single-handedly the coolest thing I've ever heard. Bro, that's metal as hell. Is that actually how you see this? Asks Margarita. It kinda changes pretty frequently. That isn't a lie exactly, but I've believed and fallen out of this belief before. Says Izuku. What other ways have you tried seeing it from? Asks Margarita. Sometimes it's simple. Murderers should be killed. Sometimes I think more about justice for those they've taken. It's a good bit of all three. At the end of the day though, I think I just want to watch humans flourish, and I don't consider our enemy human. Says Izuku. Why is that? People can change. Says Margarita. A fair point considering, Doc. Well, I take energy from the soul. I can tell when a soul was abandoned. I can still take energy from the blood because the soul put it there before being stomped out. I'm a monster, but I make the choice to be a human being. To hold on to my soul. They're human beings. They have a soul and they chose to lose it. They chose to be a monster, so I hunt them like a monster and I give them a monster's death. Says Izuku. Damn. You should write a book or something. Says Margarita. Well, actually I've been keeping notebooks for years. They started as things I wrote about quirks and because I didn't have one, but now I keep some around just to write what I think or do. I like to draw in them too. Says Izuku. Ooh, can I see? Asks Margarita. Oh, I don't know about that. It's personal stuff. And I kinda drew my girl naked on a couple different pages. Says Izuku. She cute? Asks Margarita. Alright, settle down. Chapter 86. Izuku was spending time with the Johnsons. They wanted him for a raid. He's not sure. They've lost another 12 men since he found Margarita's corpse. He always wants to fight. He loves doing it. However, he understands that there are times when you should lay low and his gang needs to lay low. I'm just saying we've been dropping like flies recently. I know you can fight, but I think we should stay back for a while, says Izuku. And let them get away with whatever they're doing now? Asks Jay. It beats getting killed. If we lay low we get to keep fighting later, says Izuku. It's a good point, says Johnny. Thank you, replies Izuku. Not to undermine you two, but we know it's not a big group. We outnumber them, says Jeremy. I'm not sure about that. There's no way they only have 4 men on a job like that, says Izuku. The guy who told me about this knows what he's talking about. He wouldn't send us if he didn't think it was safe, says Jimmy. I trust you guys. I don't think he'd misinform us on purpose, says Izuku. He knows what he's talking about. We'll be alright, says Jimmy. It's not that big of a deal anyway. It's nothing we haven't done 20 times before, says Jay. It's easy for you to say that. You're not the one in charge. It's not on you if someone dies, says Izuku. I'm with the boss on this one. I think we should lay low for a while, if not quit, says Johnny. When did you start thinking like that? Asks Joey. I'm 8 years older than you. I beat the tar out of myself for my scholarship. I'm getting stiffer and slower. I can still fight about as well as any of you, but I've been doing it longer. It takes a lot out of you, says Johnny. Okay. After this one we'll lay low. It's a small job. We outnumber them and have the element of surprise. It'll be over in 2 seconds, says Joey. I'm with that, says Jimmy. Sure, says Jeremy. Jay? Asks Johnny. I want to keep fighting. But if it makes you feel better then sure. I could use a break, says Jay. I'm still not sure we should go out tonight, says Johnny. Well, I'm going tonight, says Jay. We can't let him go on his own, says Jimmy, causing the twins to nod. If you're all going I'll be there, says Johnny. I think it's a terrible idea, says Izuku bluntly. I'll back you up because that's what a buddy does, but it's a bad idea. Well, you can think that, but it'll be over before you know it, says Jay. They decide to wait until it gets a little darker before going down there. They just kinda hang out and watch TV. Izuku likes their ceiling fan. He always has. They painted a J on all 5 fan blades. It's neat. After hanging around for a while they all pile into Johnny's van. They're just gonna shoot a couple weapon smugglers using a legitimate cargo hauling business as a cover. They thought using just a little manpower would deter prying eyes. They thought wrong. The 6 of them park a little bit away from the shipping yard and walk over. It's an easy job, just find and shoot 3 men, then take their weapons. One of them should be operating the crane so he won't be hard to find. I don't feel too good about this, says Katsuki. We'll be fine, says Jay before a bullet flies through the side of his head. Immediately Katsueki's pistol is returning fire at the crane. He watches the fucker fall all the way down. While that was happening, Johnny picked up Jay and dragged him between some shipping containers. Izuku can hear footsteps and cars pulling up. This is why he doesn't like working near the ocean. He can't hear or smell as well as usually would. We're pinned here, says Katsueki. What do we do? Asks Jimmy. Izuku looks to Johnny. He's staring at what's left of Jay's skull. I'm gonna run out and take their fire. I want all of you to run to the van. I'll catch up, says Katsueki. Boss, we can't leave you like that, says Joey. You wouldn't listen earlier, listen now. You run as fast as you can and you don't look back. I'll catch up with you, says Katsueki before running out and opening fire. The brothers do what he says and take off. Jimmy gets stabbed by Tma, the new leader of the Serpent. Jeremy gets shot in the ass and falls to the floor. What the fuck are you waiting for? He shouts before getting gunned down. Jimmy gets cut down by Tma. Before Tma can kill Johnny, a wall of fire separates them and the flame hero Dragon Breath sets fire to the 20 or so syndicate members in front of him. Katsueki slashes the open with his axe while they're still on fire. All that's left is the Titanium Titan, and his new boss. Stay back and spit fire. I'll keep them away from you. My friend needs to get his brother's bodies and leave. Says Katsueki. Sure. Let's fuck him up. Says Hisashi. Chapter 87. Katsueki materializes his axe and cuts down the men his father burned. He doesn't want them getting up later. His father keeps the Titan and his boss away with a firewall. Once he's done slaughtering the grunts, he turns his attention to the Titan. I'll deal with the big one. You handle the speedster. Says Katsuyuki. It should be harder for the speedster to get close to his dad. So it's probably the best call. His fight with the Titan goes about how you'd expect it to. Neither gains ground, neither loses ground. Katsueki has to change his style a little. He grapples with him instead of crashing against him. They slam each other into shipping containers, fences, and the ground beneath their feet. Do you know what you took from me? Asks the Titan before slamming his fist into Katsueki's ribs. I know, but I don't care. Replies Katsueki before shoving him into the side of a shipping container. That seems to have pissed him off because he's hitting a lot harder than he was a second ago. Katsueki is losing ground. Each of the Titan's hits nearly take him off his feet. Every single hit breaks the bones underneath the flesh. He was a leader. He may not have been the best man, but he was good to me. He gave me a bed to sleep in and food to eat. He says before throwing Izuku back and tackling him to the ground. He was good to me. I wanted to repay him. I needed to repay him. He is hammering the shit out of Katsueki. Blow after blow drives his head deeper into the concrete. He had to switch to shock absorption so he doesn't die before he can heal off the damage. He gave me something to fight for. He gave me a purpose. If I can't fight for him, I can avenge him, then I can continue to fight for what he left behind. Says the Titan. Izuku's honestly surprised. This is actually very humanizing. Apart from him getting his skull caved in, of someone he really didn't think was human. He could even feel it. He can't tell this man has a soul. He's definitely human, but he still deserves to die here. Izuku uses the gigantification he got from the samurai vampire to throw him off. He tries to follow up, but he takes an uppercut to the jaw and loses his concentration and shrinks. He gets slammed into the side of a shipping container. Before he can recover from that, a knife pins his hands into the metal. A third knife makes its way into his stomach right below his chest. It then travels down the length of his stomach. He's pulled off the crate and slammed into the ground. He makes a splat noise as his innards stain the concrete red. I told you, I'd gut you the last time we spoke. The Titan says before slamming his boot into the back of Katsueki's head. You got far, Vigilante, but it's over. They'll never find your body. He's gonna crush Katsueki's skull before a fireball sends him about 20 feet back. Get up. Comes his father's voice. Izuku does what he's told. He pushes himself back together and heals the gaping hole in his stomach. Hisashi shoots fire down both paths between the shipping crates to buy some time. You alright? Asks Hisashi. I'll live. More are coming. I can smell them. Go to my friend and help him with the bodies. I'll deal with these two. Says Katsuyuki. You go. You're faster. Says Hisashi. I starts Katsueki. Go. Interrupts Hisashi. I'll be fine. Katsueki jumps over the crates and takes off to go help Johnny load his brothers in the van and leave. You shouldn't have let him go. Says the speedster. Hisashi doesn't know his name. I was fine without him. Says Hisashi. Sure, but that was just against me. Says the speedster. Doesn't matter. I'll be fine against both of you. Says Hisashi. Hisashi sends a burst of flames to the speedster and gives chase when he dodges. He gets out of the labyrinth of boxes so he can fight them in an open area where his flames should be harder to dodge or take cover from. The speedster tries to come and stab him. A puff of flames keeps him away. Then the Titan comes charging in. A wave of fire collides with the Titan but don't slow him in the slightest. Hisashi needs to turn up the heat. Hotter and hotter. He isn't stopping, but neither is Hisashi. The flames go from orange to blue and smoke pours out of Hisashi's nose, but he gets the big metal bastard to back off. He can't keep that up, he's gonna fry himself. His lips are already charred black. He sends another wave to the speedster. "I thought you said I'd have trouble with both of you," mocks Hisashi. The Titan charges again and Hisashi turns the heat back up. He has to divert his flames as the speedster comes back around with his knives. When he turns back to the Titan, he's close. He slams his fist into Hisashi's chest. He breaks his ribs and his collarbone. Hisashi spits a mixture of blood and ash into his eyes and puts some space between the two of them. Hisashi is sweating clean through his costume. He burned his lips right off his face and it's getting hard to breathe. He spits out a tooth that's mostly melted into a paste. He finally hits the speedster, causing him to fall with all of his momentum. He slides past Hisashi and doesn't get back up. "Just us," says the Titan. Hisashi coughs up more ash and blood as he tries to answer. It's taking all he's got to melt this guy. But he'll do it, and he'll still be here by the time his boy gets back. He doesn't need to be his father, but he wants to show him he's better than he was. He gave him something to fight for. So he fights. He burns and he burns. He can see the man in front of him starting to melt. He knows if he lets him get close like that again he'll kill him, so he needs to end it before he gets here. He puts everything he has into this one. It's the brightest he's ever burned. The Titan can't take it. Before he reaches him he falls to his knees. Hisashi finally stops. The Titan is dead. Molten metal is spreading over the concrete. Hisashi falls to the ground and waits for his boy to get back. He's vaguely aware that the speedster got up and ran off at some point. He wasn't gonna stop him. Not that he could right now. He sees his boy's snakeskin boots running over to him. He lets out a shaky breath and takes a good look at his son. Izuku ran back to his dad as soon as Johnny left. When he returned, the boss was gone. The Titan was dead, melted and splattered over the ground. His dad looked like someone took a blowtorch to his face. His dad looks up at him before his head rolls back and he goes limp. Izuku runs over and checks his pulse to find that there isn't one. He closes his father's eyes and just sits there for a minute. It smells like burning flesh and shit from all the people they killed. There is blood everywhere. It's soaked into his clothes, in his hair and under his nails. A couple cops come over and take a look at the place. "Oh shit," says one as he comes over. Izuku looks up at him. "Don't worry, big man, we knew him. We were friends. I'm sorry for your loss," he says. "And yours," replies Izuku. "That's very thoughtful. You should go though. More of us are gonna be here soon," says the cop. "All right. I'll go," says Katsueki as he starts to jog off. "Thanks for the warning." "No problem," replies the cop. Naturally, Izuku has a lot to think about as he makes his way back to Johnny's place. His dad knew the risk and he made a choice. He still can't help but feel responsible, but if he didn't leave him, Johnny would have died. Did he make the right call? Probably. It's what Dad told him to do. They never did get along until recently. The man had done a lot of harm in his life. It'd be so much easier if he could have just hated him. That's pretty much all he showed the man too, and he still did that for him. He never liked calling the man Dad, but damn, he earned it. Damn, he earned it. He wishes he could have known him better. That he could have understood what the man was thinking. What he did just then was genuinely selfless, for a son who showed him nothing but hate when he was trying to move on and be better. Maybe Izuku didn't know him all that well, but he got to see him at his best, and that would have to do. He was finally back at Johnny's. "Hey," he says as he comes through the door, "I killed our informant," says Johnny. "Good," replies Izuku. "You alright?" "No," replies Johnny. "You need anything?" asks Izuku. "Could you take care of the bodies?" asks Johnny. "Of course." "They in the van?" asks Izuku. "Yeah," replies Johnny. "Anything else I can do?" Asks Izuku. I don't really feel like doing this right now. Says Johnny. I get it. I'll leave, but I'll be back tomorrow morning. Says Izuku. Johnny just nods back. Like he said he would. Izuku buried the bodies. Made them all nice headstones. He also made a headstone for his dad. He knew he wouldn't get buried here, but he felt like he deserved it to be remembered. He should probably call his uncle and let him know. Hello. Comes Matthew's voice. Sounds tired. Hey uncle. Says Izuku. Not to be that guy, but it's 2 in the morning. Says Matthew. Yeah, sorry about that. But I need to talk to you. Says Izuku. About what? Asks Matthew. Izuku sighs. Dad is dead. What? Asks Matthew. He sounds awake now. I was fighting some villains in New York. He saved my life and the life of a friend of mine. He burned himself inside out fighting. Says Izuku. Oh. Says Matthew. If it helps, he just killed one of the strongest and most renowned villains in the world. Says Izuku. It helps a little. Says Matt. You alright? Asks Izuku. Sure. It's rough, but I'm alright. Says Matthew. What about you? I'm suffering a little. But we both did our best. This kind of thing happens. Says Izuku. Yeah. Replies Matthew. There's not much else to say. Well, I should go tell the kids. Sure. Says Izuku. I'll leave you to it. What a mess today's been. True to what Izuku said, he's stopping by to make sure Johnny is alright. He opens the door and steps inside. Hey Johnny. Says Izuku. Izuku enters the living room and finds Johnny hanging from the ceiling fan. Chapter 88. Izuku buried Johnny. He laid him down next to his brothers. He doesn't really know how to feel. He's had friends die before, but he's never had them kill themselves. He understands why Johnny did it. He doesn't exactly blame him. In fact, he can currently relate to it. That's not to say he isn't upset. There's no way Johnny didn't know what this was gonna do to him. There's no way Johnny didn't know he was gonna make Izuku go through what he just went through. Izuku wishes he told Johnny that his dad didn't make it. Maybe it would have stopped him. Which brings him to the next thing troubling him. His dad died so Johnny could make it out. Izuku and Hisashi could have bagged the last leaders of the Serpent. They could have ended it there. But Izuku left to save Johnny, and because of that Hisashi is dead and Johnny just went and hanged himself anyway. But wait, it gets worse. How, you might be wondering. Well, as soon as he gets done burying Johnny, his phone blows up. That wasn't the only trap the snakes set. He's getting texts from Grin and Victor telling him that his men, good people that put their faith in his ability to lead them, are getting killed in their own homes. So he doesn't get time to mourn. He needs to portal hop all over the world and retrieve and bury the corpses of his friends, which as much as that sucks, and it does. He loves these people like family. He'd gladly kill for them and he'd gladly die for them. It still gets worse. As soon as he gets some buried, he gets another call from Victor telling him more of their men are dead. Victor's currently living in a hotel right now, but Izuku told him to stay at his place for a while. They don't know how much the snakes know, so he's laying low. Izuku's not worried about his place. Izuku won't come back from the place unless he's a bat flying through the window. But just in case, he told Dabi to sleep with one eye open until he gets back. Speaking of him getting back, he can finally go home. He's drained. He's tired. Only 2 of the vigilantes he was in charge of are still alive. It's just Speedy and Victor. He never considered Dabi, Stain or Toga one of his vigilantes. Stain doesn't work for anybody. Dabi's a mercenary, so he gets paid when he helps out. Toga doesn't work with him often, and when she does, she certainly doesn't take orders from him. Semantics aside, he's miserable. He just wants to see his daughter. Hey Dabi, says Izuku as he finally comes home. You good, bro? Asks Dabi. Izuku looks at him, flatly. Alright, that's my bad. You wanna talk about it? asks Dabi. Izuku takes a seat next to him. I'm done, says Izuku. You're done? Asks Dabi. Done being Ketsueki, says Izuku. Done being Ketsueki? Asks Dabi. Yeah. I don't have it in me anymore, man. Ever since killing the snake, things have gone downhill. I can't take it. So I'm done, says Izuku. What about you, Date? Asks Dabi. I don't know. I might drop out, states Izuku. You're not gonna go to high school? Asks Dabi. You didn't go to high school and you turned out fine, says Izuku. Dabi just laughs at him. Alright. I should probably go, but I think I wanna move to Genet, says Izuku. I know I'm not the guy anybody should go to for advice, but that's a good idea. I know how you like to keep yourself busy and that'll help, reasons Dabi. Yeah, replies Izuku distractedly. Something wrong, outside of the obvious? Asks Dabi. Just the obvious. Got a lot on my mind, says Izuku. Wanna take your mind off things? Asks Dabi. Dude, I do not want to feel paranoid right now, says Izuku. That's fair. So what's rushing through your head? Asks Dabi. We should move soon. I don't know where though. I don't think they know where we are, but we should leave in case they find out. Maybe somewhere secluded, either that or somewhere too populated for them to do anything. Like by a big hero agency, says Izuku. I don't know enough about that type of thing to help, says Dabi. I'll ask Ruby. She knows real estate well, says Izuku. Hums Dabi. You think they'll find us? I don't actually, but once again, it's a big risk. I don't know how they found any of the others, especially how they found them so fast. At first I thought there was a rat, but everybody that joined on after we started messing with the syndicate is dead, muses Izuku. It can't be Victor or Speed Demon? Asks Dabi. Izuku looks at him for a short while. No. I know Victor like the back of my hand. He's as true as they come. I'll admit I don't know Speed Demon as well, but he's saved my life before. If he were a rat he never would have done that. Plus both of them joined before I started my war against the syndicates, so they've got nothing to gain from it, says Izuku. Just making sure, says Dabi. I appreciate how cautious you can be for someone so angry, says Izuku. I'm a simmer, not a blaze, says Dabi. Either way, replies Izuku. So what now? Asks Dabi. What now? What? Asks Izuku. What do we need to do? I'm with you all the way. Toga's with you too. The only reason she's not here is because she figured you go through a couple packs, so she's getting you more, says Dabi. Izuku's fucked up. He is. Plain and simple. But shit like this makes living worth it. Despite everything, he's been blessed to know all these wonderful people, even if they aren't all still with him. Still kills him that most of them died though. I really appreciate that, man. Honestly though, there's not much to do. Just wait and look into buying a new place with Ruby later. I did invite Victor, so he'll be staying over. I don't remember if I mentioned that yet. Oh, I need to head out later. I'm gonna see if I can get us some protection from a guy I know, says Izuku. Sounds like a plan, says Dabi. Sure, replies Izuku as he rises from his seat. I'm gonna go check on Eri. I'm sure she missed me. Izuku was with Victor. He's helping him move some of the things that are immediately important to him out of his house. They'll get the rest once things die down. There really isn't that much Victor needs from here. Just pictures of family and his guns, can't forget those. They're almost done when Izuku sees someone standing in the doorway. That's not good. Can I help you? Asks Izuku. As soon as Izuku says that, Victor pulls out a pistol and slides against a wall. Izuku knows he's ready for a fight if one breaks out. I'm not with the syndicate if that's what you're wondering, says the kid. Then what are you doing here? Asks Izuku. I'm here for you, he says. You a fan? asks Izuku. Far from it, says the kid. What's your beef with me? Asks Izuku. You killed my father, says the kid. This is gonna sound horrible but you'll need to be more specific, says Izuku. The kid is clearly agitated by him saying that, though Izuku would probably be pissed if he got that treatment. Ben Walker, the Titanium Titan, says the kid. I never knew he had a kid, says Izuku. Would you have killed him if you did? Asks the kid. Yes, I would. I've killed fathers, mothers, husbands and wives. It's never stopped me before, says Izuku, but none of this matters. A pro-hero killed Ben Walker. Izuku Midoriya killed my father. Your father killed my father, it's only right I kill his son, says the kid. First of all, Ben killed himself, with the life he lived. He robbed, lied, cheated, and killed for a living. That man sold people. Sold real human beings. He was gonna get himself killed eventually, says Izuku. Second, think of your family. Don't you want to go home to them? You start something now and I can guarantee you'll never see them again. I've got no family left to turn to, says the kid. Fuck, says Izuku under his breath. I turned you to an orphan, huh? Look, I didn't mean to do that but you can still stop this. I know I wronged you but you can start a family of your own once you get a little older. I can and I will after I kill you, says the kid. Christ kid, how old are you? Asks Izuku. 12, says the kid. What's your name? Ben Jr. Ben Jr. I'm sorry I really am but if you want to try to kill me you will die. You can just turn around and leave hell. I can get you a place to live. I can get you a job. I can hook you up so you don't have to do this, says Izuku. I want to, says Ben Jr. Ben I don't want to kill you. I don't like killing kids, says Izuku. You've done it before? Asks Ben Jr. Well yeah, but I wasn't happy about it, says Izuku. You hypocrite. You kill bad men but you're horrible. You said it yourself. You kill husbands, wives, fathers, sons, mothers, and daughters. You hold no remorse for the people you kill. I've heard about the way you smile and laugh when killing people. You might have a good reason to kill the people you do, but you're kidding yourself if you think that's why you do it. You do it because you like hurting other people, says Ben Jr. I'd hardly call them people after everything they've done, says Izuku. There it is. That right there. That's the worst part. I saw that snuff film you made. I saw you justify your actions by calling those people inhuman. Those were living breathing human beings you mutilated, says Ben Jr. I'm starts Izuku. Subhuman, spouts Ben Jr. Come again, says Izuku. He's audibly pissed. You're fucking subhuman, says Ben Jr. I'm trying to give you a way out of this, just take the out dude. Or do you want to die that bad? Asks Izuku. There's that temper of yours, says Ben Jr. Alright, will you shut up about that dude? We just met 5 minutes ago. You don't know me, and no junior high psychology course lets you analyze me like you're Sigmund Freud or something. Leave now, or say fuck it, we're dueling, snaps Izuku. Fuck it we're dueling, says Ben Jr. Are you sure? Asks Izuku. I am sure, says Ben Jr. When and where? Asks Izuku. Here and now, says Ben Jr. I'm not splattering your gray matter all over my buddy's walls, says Izuku. If it's not here and now I'm letting the snakes know that Katsueki is Izuku Midoriya, says Ben Jr. Well fuck. It's cool, mouths Victor. Fine. But I'm going to my car to grab something silenced. Come inside, says Izuku. As soon as he sees Victor he freezes. I'm not gonna shoot you. I was just worried you were someone else, says Victor. You work for the TAS? Asks Ben. Everyone has their faults, says Victor. Izuku is in the garage grabbing his silenced magnum but he can still hear this conversation. It's like people forget that he has super hearing. Like what? Asks Ben. You mentioned the temper. I've seen it lead him to making some bad choices. I think he's killed a few people that didn't quite deserve it. Says Victor. What does he mean by that? Then why work for him? Asks Ben. He's helped me with a lot. He's saved my life more than a few times. He's not a horrible person. Not usually. He's usually a good man. He enjoys helping people. It's one of the few things that makes him really happy. He enjoys hurting people too. I've seen it firsthand. I've come to distrust words like deserve, but if anybody does deserve to get hurt or killed, it's the people he's dealt with. Maybe the both of us do deserve to die for all the things we've done and all the people, and yes, I do think they're people that we've killed. Says Victor. I'd like a more concrete answer than that. Says Ben Jr. I'd like you to reconsider this duel. Says Victor. I'm quick. Replies Ben Jr. He's quicker. Says Victor. I still want a better answer for my question. Says Ben Jr. Victor sighs. I don't want to call him a necessary evil, but it's something like that. If it's necessary, it's not evil. Says Izuku as he strolls back into the house. I'm sorry if you overheard that. Says Victor. Victor, you are one of the most loyal men I know. I cannot be mad at you. Says Izuku. You ready? Asks Ben Jr. Sure. Replies Izuku before walking to the other side of the room. One last time. Are you sure about this? Asks Izuku. Yes. Replies Ben Jr. before Ben even has a chance to realize what just happened. There are two golf ball-sized holes in his chest. He's dead before he hits the ground. Izuku calmly strolls past the body and looks into the bullet holes in the wall. I think the bullets hit the brick wall in your backyard. Could you pick them up and bring them back while I lap up this mess? Asks Izuku. Yeah. I'll be right back. Izuku laps up the mess, wraps the body in a tarp and stuff it in his trunk. He's gonna need Grin to help with the body. Soon after, Izuku and Victor are on the road. They're driving to a parking garage where Kurogiri is gonna portal them to Grin's place to drop off the body, and they'll go home from there. You think it was a bad call to kill that kid? Asks Izuku. It's hard to say. I don't think he deserved it. He hadn't done anything wrong beforehand to my knowledge. But he came at you with a gun. You gave him chance after chance to leave. You offered him help. I don't blame him for what he did. I would have done the same. Hell, I did do the same. Says Victor. I don't blame you either. He challenged you to a duel and lost. I really think that's what it boils down to. I could have beat him without killing him. I could have hit his arm. Maybe I could have shot the gun out of his hand, but I haven't quite mastered that the way Doc did. Says Izuku. Still, he was a good teacher. You sure you could have beat him without killing him? Asks Victor. Positive. Replies Izuku. He knew our names and faces though. That isn't good. Says Victor. No, it's not. Says Izuku. I think if you let him live, he'd have come back with more. Says Victor. I'm surprised that wasn't his first plan. Says Izuku. Me too, honestly. I'm thankful it wasn't, but. Says Victor. Yeah. Hums Izuku. You think others are gonna find us soon? Not if we move. Says Victor. How's that coming along? My aunt has this cabin. I've stayed there a couple times. We've talked about me buying the place off of her. Then she gets my house and gives it to a property manager to rent it out. Says Izuku. How secluded is it? Asks Victor. Very. It also has room for the 5 of us. It's the perfect place for us right now. Says Izuku. Good. Says Victor. Soon after, they drop the body off at Grin's place for him to deal with. After that, they get home. The house isn't really meant for 5 people, but it'll have to do for now. How'd it go? Asks Tabi. Izuku laughs at that. It couldn't have gone that bad, could it? Asks Tabi. Victor chuckles at that one. You fill him in. I've got some more shit I need to take care of. Says Izuku. Like what? Asks Toga. Remember the hero on my case? Asks Izuku. Eraserhead. Asks Dabi. Yeah, that one. Says Izuku, I'm gonna talk to him about retiring and see if I can get him to piss off. You think that'll work? Asks Dabi. I guess we'll find out. Says Izuku as he walks towards the door. I got the door. Says Victor. Thanks man. Replies Izuku as he leaves. Author's note: Hey everybody. Long time no see. You've probably noticed by now, but it's taking me a while to finish these chapters. I'm getting rid of any type of update schedule because I know that I won't be able to keep it. I'm still gonna keep the story going, but it's gonna be pretty slow, for a while. I hope you all enjoyed this chapter. The next one will start where this left off, with Izuku going to see Eraserhead. That's actually a pretty interesting idea. I'll be honest, I hadn't considered making Dabi the mole, but that would be one hell of a twist. It's not gonna happen, but it would be cool. Also about Dabi's loyalty being viable, that's true to an extent. He'll do good work to the best of his abilities when paid well, but after he's earned his pay, his loyalty is gone. Izuku is one of the few exceptions to that rule because he helped Dabi fight Endeavor even though he told Dabi it was a bad call. That's the main reason Dabi is loyal to Izuku. Yeah, if Izuku just went full on feral, he'd lose his supporting network, or most of it at least. So no, Ruby would not help him. I think bad people mourn just the same as good people. It's natural to mourn what you've lost. Unless you're emotionless or soulless or something. I think I should have phrased the question better. I'm not asking if he's full on evil. I'm just asking if he's a bad person. Blue Hellfire 666, I'm gonna rephrase the question a little. I'm not asking if he's evil. I'm just asking if he's a bad person. I think the Shigaraki or Overhaul comparisons are a little far because they are actually evil. Your thoughts on the subject don't have to change, I just wanted to be clear on what I was asking. UA would be great for him. He doesn't really interact